At approximately 10:50 last night, officers were dispatched to a report of possible shots fired in the 100 block of Lucille Way. As officers responded, they got more calls and updated details that described a chaotic scene. As the situation developed, officers from throughout the Bay Area responded to the scene and found over 100 people fleeing from a residence where there had been a gathering. Officers entered the home to check for suspects, and after clearing the home, worked with the Orinda Fire Department as the fire department worked to triage and treat victims. In the end, 3 subjects were found deceased in the residence. 5 other subjects were transported to local Bay Area hospitals. One of those subjects, one of those victims, I apologize, was pronounced deceased after arriving at the hospital. So right now we have a total of 4 people deceased and 4 others known to be injured. There may be others out who are injured. We're still working on locating and contacting people. This home is a short-term rental property in the hills in the southern part of Orinda. After we cleared the home and removed the victims that could be hospitalized, the crime scene forensic technicians and homicide investigators arrived on scene to start prosecuting the investigation. And they are working in concert with the Federal Bureau of Investigations. As Jimmy Lee said, we are still in the very early stages of this investigation. It is a very complex investigation. There was a wide area and a lot of people involved, and we're still trying to wrap our arms around what exactly transpired. With that, I'll take a few questions.
Do you know what happened? What are witnesses telling you? And any idea who the shooters are? Are there 1 shooter, 2 shooters?
Right. So, as I said, this is very early in the investigation, so we don't have information released. We haven't been able to confirm exactly how many suspects there were, and we are still working to determine exactly what transpired. So we're not releasing any witness statements right now.
Do you have any sense of what happened?
Not that I'm willing to discuss as a matter of fact on the record, no.
And were the other 4 people who were injured, were they also gunshot wounds? Was everybody gunshot wounds?
I don't know the extent of the different injuries. There may have been some people who were transported without gunshot wounds.
What was SFPD doing at the scene?
I'm not aware of SFPD being at the scene. It might have occurred after I left, so I would have to check into that.
What could you say to the neighbors have been really nervous around there today, all night and this morning, wondering whether there was potentially a gunman on the loose in the neighborhood? What would you say to them?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate the question. We have absolutely no reason to believe right now that there's an ongoing threat to anybody in the community.
Family at the hospital says they're very concerned about their images or anything being shown because they think the suspects are still at large.
Nobody's been arrested in our case right now.
So why is there a sense that there's no longer a threat if the suspects are still at large?
We don't have any reason to believe that they stayed in the area. We don't have any reason to believe that they were from Orinda. The house was rented by people who were not from Orinda.
Where are you from? Can you say?
I cannot say.
Chief, what can you say about the use of ring or nest cams? Also, do you have LPR license plate readers here?
We do have 2 reader cameras in the town, and I'm sure that our investigators will comb through the entire area to locate any cameras that might be of assistance in the investigation.
The neighbors have been telling us that that house has been a problem before, and that the city of Orinda was trying to take steps to make sure that these large parties weren't occurring there, given that it's a short-term rental. Can you talk about a history there at all, whether your department or if the city has a history of trying to mitigate or deal with this house?
I don't have a call history for the location. That's something that we'll have to go through during the course of the investigation, and I would have to defer to the city for the other part.
Can someone from the city address
We'll
that?
have the mayor.
Chief, can you tell us
Yes,
what
ma'am.
was found inside the house? It was a party, so was it alcohol, drugs?
Right. I can't go through what was at the scene of the crime.
Can you tell us where the victims are from?
I don't have that information right now. The investigations unit is still working right now to make identifications and notifications.
Do you have genders?
I don't even have that right now, no.
Jody, once we get the next of kin notifications made, we'll have an update press release where we can ID the victims.
Was there a camera at the house? You talked about license plate readers in Orinda, but were there cameras that were operating in the house?
I don't know. I didn't go in the house. Our investigators are working on that. The crime scene investigators are still in the house cleaning it right, or processing it right now.
Do you have any reason to believe that this shooting emanated from something in another city? We know Oakland police have put out a statement that they're assisting you. Is this something
I
that
don't-
came from somewhere else to your town?
Yeah, that's possible. I don't have any information on that. They're still gathering facts. This is a party that had over 100 people in it. And all of those people are potential witnesses to what happened. And we're working to locate as many of those people as we can and obtain statements from them.
Do you have any description of the suspects?
Not that we're willing to release right now because, like I said, we're still working on gathering as much information as we can. If anybody does have any information that they can share with us, if they were at the party or if they know something that would be useful to us, we would ask them to call 925-313-2600. Or if they would like to leave a tip and remain anonymous, we would ask them to call 866-846-3592.
Chief, can you go again and describe the scene of the initial officers when they first arrived, what they came up against, what they found? Just kind of paint the picture of what they first encountered.
So for those who might not be familiar with the neighborhood, these are tight, small, windy, very steep roads. And most of the homes are built into a hill. And the house, which was not designed to hold 100 people, had at least 100 people trying to flee it on those windy streets. So when the officers arrived, it was a very chaotic scene, and there was a lot of noise and yelling and people running.
Were there any shots that police heard when they got there, or was all the shooting?
I don't have any information about any shots that were fired after the police arrived.
You said this is a party that had over 100 people in it, and all these people are potential witnesses. Have you located any of those people and interviewed them?
We have located some, and the investigators are working to interview those folks.
Can you talk about the weapon used? There's some reports of some high-powered.
I don't have any information on the weapons that they use right now.
Two more questions.
When you talk about the investigators, what all the jurisdictions are supplying you with additional investigators to help with this? Who's helping you?
Yeah, the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff Homicide Unit is leading the investigation. The Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff Crime Scene Team is providing some forensic support for processing the crime scene.
And Chief, were you aware of any noise complaints prior to the shooting at this specific party?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not saying there wasn't, I don't have those.
Why is the FBI involved?
The FBI is providing us with support for resources that we may not have access to.
The suspects fled the scene. Did they leave in a car? Do you have any idea how they got away?
We're still working on determining that.
And you believe there are suspects, multiple people involved?
I did not say that. We're still trying to determine that.
Let's
How
just.
many shots were fired?
I don't. Like I said, the crime scene folks are still in the house right now as we speak, working to determine all of those things. So
Shots happened inside the house or outside?
it may be a mixture of both. I can't say.
Len, last question.
At this point, whether or not the person renting the house or the owner of the house could face any kind of criminal liability?
We haven't broached that possibility. Right now, we're trying to wrap our arms around what we have in front of us. That'll come later.
Chief, can you tell us what the owners, what they said, what they thought they were renting to, what they thought was going to be happening?
I have not spoken to the owners. That will be part of the ongoing investigation.
All right, let's wrap that up. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Mayor Inga Miller, Orinda City Mayor, come on up.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you to all of you who are here today and join us on this somber day for the city of Orinda. We've lost 4 people to violence in our community last night, and we have 4 more in the hospital. And as a show of our loss, we have lowered our flags to half staff and understand that the school district is in the process of doing the same. Our hearts go out to the families who are learning about their loved ones at this time, and those who are in the hospital hoping for the best for their relatives, and we're doing the same. This is a tragedy of unimaginable gravity. We also are very concerned, and our hearts are going out to the neighbors and the people in the neighborhood here in Orinda who have had this happen in their neighborhood and the shock of that. And there are resources available. We've been told by our county supervisor that there are resources available that the county will make available to those who are struggling and would like to have some support. So please reach out to us here at the city if you would like to make use of those services. The investigation, as you heard, is ongoing, and we are very comfortable and confident in the leadership of the team that you've heard about under the direction of our chief, David Cook. We have great confidence in that team. We've also asked that an item be put on our Tuesday City Council agenda to discuss the issue of short-term rentals in our community and to give direction to staff. And if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Yes?
Mayor, do you know of any history? Like I said, the neighbors are telling us that this house was an issue earlier in the year, that there were complaints made, and that there was some effort by the city to get involved and maybe work with the owner to kind of mitigate or keep the big parties at least from happening.
I can say that our planning department has briefed us on some of the details about short-term rentals in our community, and I don't feel comfortable speaking about this particular house today, only because the investigation is ongoing, and there is the potential that there have been complaints made about a house, one or more, in the city of Orinda, and we'll be discussing that on Tuesday. At this time, we are so focused on the tragedy that has occurred, the families that have lost loved ones, those people in the hospital, and this ongoing investigation that you've heard about, that the issues related to short-term rentals are really ones that at least I am really leaving to focus on Tuesday when we look at our materials over the weekend and on Tuesday when we have the opportunity to ask questions and direct staff.
But
Mayor,
Mary,
can
this
you
is just a
confirm
matter
that-
of history. Have there been complaints about this residence in the past?
I'm gonna defer to our city manager on that item.
Okay.
Quick, Mayor, what kind of direction do you anticipate the staff receiving at the next meeting? You mentioned their staff's going to give, you're going to have to give them direction.
Okay, well, because of the Brown Act, the city council members can only speak with one another at the council meeting, and so it will really be after that discussion that the council's able to make any sort of direction. I could imagine discussion about how short-term rentals have gone in the community. Have we had complaints in the past? Are there things that we can do to address concerns that may have been arisen? We do have limits on how many occupants can be at a short-term rental, and it's based on a rubric based on the number of bedrooms. And so we do have regulations regarding that. We also have regulations on commercial activity in residential neighborhoods. And so we do have a number of regulations already. So I assume that we'll be looking at those regulations and determining whether those regulations should be added to or whether there is any enforcement that can be increased. And those would be the types of things that we might look at. But again, it's so early in the discussion, and the focus has really been on these families at this point.
Okay.
Mayor, at this point, what are your specific concerns that concern you that you will bring into this meeting about short-term rentals in general?
I just haven't had the time to think about that as we comprehend the violence that has occurred in our community.
But hasn't the city council taken this up before?
Certainly, I'm happy to mention what we've done in the past. We have looked at the issue of short-term rentals and the idea of making sure that there is not inappropriate, that we're not condoning inappropriate activity at short-term rentals. And so within the last few years, we passed a ordinance which limits the number of people you can have at a short-term rental, and that the city manager would be better suited to discuss the specifics. Yes, I
Last
think,
question,
last
Laura?
question.
Can you just clarify, you mentioned that flags at half-staff here.
Yes.
Why the schools? My station is asking.
I see, and I'm not, you might ask the schools specifically. I
Just as a show.
we advised the school district that we were lowering our flags. So I would direct any questions to the schools as to whether they are doing that, in fact.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mayor. Okay, coming up next is the Orinda City Manager, Steve Solomon.
Thank you. What my major purpose here is to give you some information on the short-term rental on Lucille where this happened. As the previous speakers mentioned, the city has a short-term rental ordinance that requires registration. This property was in fact registered. The ordinance states that there will be no more than 13 people at the rental, and from what you heard from the Chief Cook, this event exceeded that. I have a timeline, and some of you, I don't know if I have enough of these. I'd appreciate it if you would pass those around. If there isn't enough, I can get more made. You can see that this property was registered on 11/21/2018. There were two code enforcement cases in relation to this. They were both situations were brought into compliance, and the code enforcement cases were closed. We had not received a complaint in some months since last July, I believe, and in fact, the first complaint came in last night in relation to the party that was going on. We have contacted Airbnb as well as Booking.com to get this particular location taken off of their sites. And the staff is working on a report for next Tuesday and to help with the council discussion, and it more than likely will not be ready until Tuesday. And if there are a few questions, I can try to answer
Mr.
them.
Solomon, what concerns do you have as a city manager about the nature of the business that these short-term rentals run in, as opposed to other types of, places where provide accommodations?
Well, the biggest concern is that the city has rules, and if you read the ordinance, you can see there are a number of them. I mentioned one of them, and the city has rules in a number of different places actually, but the challenge and the underlying problem here is they weren't being followed, and so that's a challenge that the city council is going to have to talk about and discuss in terms of how we move forward, given there are going to be folks that don't follow the rules. That's unfortunately the way the world works, and so there may be further restrictions that they want to consider.
Well, it looks like they
But
haven't
is there
followed the
anything about
rules already.
Let me just
And-
follow up.
I'm sorry.
Is there anything about the Airbnb business model that makes it difficult for cities to enforce laws?
Well, I don't know that it's the model itself. I think it's more the particular property owners and their willingness to follow the rules. But again, we're going to try to give the council a range of things they could do, and some of that may involve restricting it quite a bit.
So you talk about they weren't following the rules, you're gonna try and have it removed from these sites. But it looks, according to this, they'd already not been following the rules, not to the point of people getting killed, but they had not been following the rules. So, does it take someone to get killed to have this pulled? Why wasn't this looked at it pulling this during these whole issues?
Well, if you look at those, there are two. We were very aggressive with the property owner on the first one, which is about large parties. And the complaint stopped. They brought the situation into compliance. The second one is about trash, and they got bigger trash containers or whatever, and so they solved the problem, that particular problem. So we had not had a complaint since, I believe, July. So that's where it is. Obviously, they weren't following the rules last night.
If I'm reading this correctly, it looks like that somebody emailed a complaint or asking for code enforcement at 9:35 last night, like an hour before the shooting occurred. Do you know if that was only an email, or did anyone call 911 or police?
I believe they tried to call the police as well, or they did call the police as well.
So were they ever fined, or what was, in this notice of violation, what did that entail?
Well, the short answer is they were not fined. Normally, if somebody is not in compliance, and there is a whole host of issues that relate to code enforcement, how high fences are. I mean, there's just a whole host, whether you have too many pets on your property. And normally, the city tries to work with people to bring them into compliance rather than fine them.
So they were just noticed?
Well, they weren't just noticed. That we had contact with them. I mean, they weren't just noticed. And in fact, I think if you look at on about March 1st, we had a conversation with them that I participated in along with the police chief and the planning director, and we spoke to the owners.
One more question.
Steve, what was that interaction like? Were they receptive? Did they accept any?
The answer is they were very receptive, and they were very cooperative, and said they would comply. And in fact, up until last night, it had appeared that they had complied.
We're going to wrap it up right now, Mr. Solomon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if we have anything to update, we'll definitely get the information out, maybe in the form of a press release to everybody, and I'll be sure to send it to everybody on my media list. So thank you very much for attending our press conference. We're done. Thank you. Thank you.
When do you expect to be able to release information on the victims?
I'm going to find out where that's at right now, and I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Okay? And please follow my Twitter. That's where I do most of the updating.
Can you find out if they called the police, did the police go there?
Yeah, that's what
I mean,
I'm
it's been
wondering.
hours.
Can we just ask the police?
No, you know, we're done. You know, it's all,
Can we get
everything that I
information?
could look into.
At
it.
9:35 p.m. when they were called.
Okay.
It's a little soon to call this press conference, there's still a lot of questions that need to be
No,
asked.
we said everything that we could say, okay? We're done. Thank you.